I wanted to bring in Sarah Parshall Perry, the Vice President and Legal Fellow for Defending Education. Sarah, good morning to you. So on this note, one social media user who identifies as the chair for Students for Trump posted this along with the photo was Martinez at the rally. And it was, Ryan says this, meet Lucy Martinez, an elementary school teacher from Chicago, who thought it was funny to mock Charlie Kirk's death. This woman teaches children. Lucy is now the perfect face of the No Kings movement, a movement that preaches love but celebrates death. Evil always exposes itself. Just to clarify, both No Kings and anti-ICE rallies, they were going on over the weekend. So much to dive into there. But Sarah, again, seeing that this woman here teaches children, I think that's what stuck out in that moment.
Yeah, I think I'll speak as a lawyer first, and I'll say that Lucy Martinez has a First Amendment right to do what she wants on her own time. But I will also speak as somebody who is a mother and say she's not fit to teach. So there is no obligation for Chicago Public Schools to keep her employed at Nathan Hale Elementary. And we can't get an answer from Nathan Hale Elementary. Chicago Public Schools has ultimately just passed the buck and said that we don't comment on personnel matters. But this is an individual who is in charge of young minds, 11 years old and younger, openly celebrating death. So while she's perfectly free to do what she wants on her own time, there's no obligation to keep her employed in Chicago Public Schools.
Yeah, that's the legal perspective, too. It seems very clear. And just a reminder for everyone, your actions outside of the workplace could have an impact on your employment. Chicago Public Schools did put out a statement, and we're learning this to Sarah's point. Chicago Public Schools remains committed to creating and maintaining a welcoming, safe, and inclusive teaching and learning environment free from harassment, bias, or harm of any kind. Going on to say, while CPS does not comment on specific personnel matters, the district follows a consistent process where allegations of misconduct are reported. Employees found to have violated board policy are subject to disciplinary action. Tina, your thoughts on maybe what happens next or the statement?
As a former school board member, that is a non-answer. That's what we call a PR answer. Those school board members have the absolute right themselves now to be more vocal about what needs to happen. They need to represent the people of Chicago. And I have faith that the good people of Chicago do not want this woman in front of their children teaching them. So the people need to take action. Parents need to step up and put pressure. And those school board members need to stand up and make sure the right thing is done. That woman does not belong in front of children.
Yeah, Sarah, as a mother, looking at this situation from that lens, what does pressure look like? I mean, clearly, we reported the website was down. You can't really get a hold of the school. If the answer comes out, it's really a non-answer. Obviously, this lady is celebrating an assassination. She's celebrating a cold-blooded murder. And yet she's still able to teach children. At last check, we haven't learned that she's been relieved of her position at this point. What does more pressure look like in your mind?
As far as I'm concerned, when people tell you who they are, believe them, and then keep repeating who they are until ultimately we shine the light on deeds that are done in the dark. I think what we're learning as parents and people who are invested in public education, as I was for my 3 kids who have been through the public education system, that we understand now who the majority of teachers are. And there are, of course, to be sure, good teachers, but there is too much indoctrination and not enough education. And if this woman had been paying attention to the fact that Chicago Public Schools are among the worst performing in the nation, she might not have spent her time on the weekend protesting at a No Kings rally and might have hit the books herself so that her students could perform better.
Since you mentioned the No Kings rally, I'm sure you've all seen clips online that have surfaced about what motivated some people to be there, and there were a variety of responses. However, here's what one protester had to say about the life of one of President Trump's members of the administration. Watch.
Who are you going to kill?
Nazis.
Who do you define as a Nazi?
What do you mean? It's pretty...
In this context, who's a Nazi?
Stephen Miller's a Nazi.
So you're going to kill Stephen Miller?
If I had the chance, yeah, I would.
I don't know if that's something I'd say on camera, bro.
Tina, that's pretty shocking admission there that you would say on camera, but just your thoughts on what you noticed from the protest over the weekend and maybe what they were hoping to achieve.
To name Stephen Miller in that fashion, it's obviously unacceptable and despicable, dangerous rhetoric. As someone who also has been called a Nazi over the last 4 years for standing up for parental rights and a better education in America, it's terrifying. You know, it strikes right to my heart. I think about my family. I think about my life and my safety. It's very disheartening.
Yeah, and Sarah, you can look in the crowd, and obviously taking the words right there, talking about a specific cabinet member, but you can look in the crowd. There are some young faces in this crowd, and it does just make you wonder, you know, where are you learning this from? Because it's certainly not love that's maybe touted. It's hate. We played it for you, Sarah.
Yeah, in fact, I think part of the problem, again, I hate to lay the problem at the feet of educators, but we have been in need of reforming the teachers' colleges for a long time. The problem is that teachers get indoctrinated when they're getting their master's degrees in education. They go into the public school system, and then they capture young minds for ideologies like this. And we've seen this homogeneity of left-wing progressive perspectives coming out of American public education, and they generate concepts like this. Stephen Miller's already had to put his house in Arlington up for sale because of messages that have been chalked on his sidewalk. The FBI has wide-ranging authority. My hope is that individuals like this are identified and investigated, especially since we've just seen what appears to be a hunting stand outside Mar-a-Lago, precisely where the president himself embarks and disembarks on Air Force One. That is incredibly problematic.
Yeah, thank goodness the Secret Service was able to locate that ahead of time before anyone was able to inflict harm on the president. Also, you wonder where this guy's working, right, too, if people would identify him and what sort of impact he could have on society at large. Tina and Sarah, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your insights.
Thanks so much.